The rope bit into Kira Brennan's wrists as her boots scraped against rough oak bark 15 feet above the forest floor. Zip ties, double locked, professional work. The kind that cut off circulation in 12 minutes caused permanent nerve damage in 30. Commander Garrett Thorne stood below, arms crossed, that smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. The same smirk he'd worn for 3 days straight, the one that said he'd already won. "Go on, try me," he called up, voice thick with amusement. "Escape in 30 minutes. We'll be watching from camp." The other 3 SEALs laughed. Lieutenant Vaughn Craddock, Chief Petty Officer Briggs Kellerman, Petty Officer Nolan Reeves. 4 decorated warriors. 4 men who thought they knew exactly who Kira Brennan was. A logistics coordinator, a paper pusher, daddy's little princess playing soldier. They had no idea. Thorne turned, still chuckling. "Radio if you need rescue, sweetheart. We'll send someone, eventually." Their boots crunched through dead leaves, voices fading, flashlight beams dancing through the pines, and then silence. Just Kira, the tree, and the gathering dark of a California mountain night. She closed her eyes, breathed, let her heartbeat slow from its combat rhythm back to something approaching normal. Pain signals were already firing from her shoulders, her wrists. Her brain categorized them, filed them away. Pain was data, nothing more. The voice came to her then, the one that always did. "Never panic, Kira. Panic kills. Calm thinking saves." Dad. Always Dad. 72 hours earlier. The alarm screamed at 0430, but Kira was already awake. She'd been staring at the ceiling for 20 minutes, running scenarios, calculating angles. The small apartment near Coronado smelled like coffee she'd preset the night before. Black, no sugar, the way he taught her. She rolled out of bed, no hesitation, no groaning, just fluid motion, and was in her running gear before the coffee finished brewing. Sports bra, compression shorts, shoes that had logged exactly 437 miles. Time for new ones soon. The living room was sparse, tactical, no decorations except for 3 photographs on the wall arranged in perfect alignment. Dad in his dress whites, Command Master Chief anchors gleaming. Dad with his SEAL team somewhere in the desert, faces painted, weapons ready. Dad and her, age 16, at the shooting range. His arm around her shoulders. That rare smile. She touched the frame. Just once. A ritual. Then she was out the door into the pre-dawn cold feet hitting pavement in that steady rhythm that had become meditation. 6:45 per mile, 10 miles. Every morning. Rain or shine or wounded or sick. Discipline wasn't something you practiced. It was something you were. The route took her along the bay past the Naval Special Warfare Command compound, where she'd spend the next 9 hours coordinating supply requisitions and equipment manifests. Paper warfare, the kind fought with spreadsheets instead of rifles. Not what Dad had trained her for. But it paid the bills, kept her close to the investigation. The investigation they didn't know she was running. By 0600, she was at the private range Miller's Outdoor, 40 minutes inland, where the owner charged her half price because he'd served with Dad in the 90s. The morning air was crisp, sharp, the sun just starting to paint the eastern hills gold. She set up at the 25-yard line, drew her Sig Sauer P226 from the waistband holster. The weapon was worn, well used, the grip fitted perfectly to her hand. Custom work Dad had done himself back in 2008. The engraving on the slide caught the light, DB Declan Brennan. Ghost. She loaded the first magazine. 15 rounds of 9mm. Federal HST, hollow point 124 grain. The ammunition professionals used when failure wasn't an option. The target was a simple silhouette. Center mass, the kill zone. She adopted her stance. Isosceles. Weight forward. Arms extended but not locked. Wrists straight. Grip firm but not strangling. Sight alignment, sight picture. Front sight focus. Press, don't pull. His voice. Always his voice. The first round broke clean. The report echoed across the range. She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just rode the recoil and reset the trigger. 14 more rounds followed in smooth succession. Controlled cadence. Each shot a heartbeat apart. When the smoke cleared, she pressed the button to retrieve the target. 15 holes, all center mass, all within a 4-inch group. Jesus, Kira. She turned. Old man Miller stood at the range master's booth, coffee in hand, shaking his head. Your daddy taught you too damn well. She ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, locked the slide back. He taught me to survive. That's more than survival shooting, girl. That's performance. She didn't answer, just reloaded and sent the target back out to 50 yards. By the time she finished 100 rounds, multiple distances, both hands, weak hand only malfunction. Drills, the sun was fully up and her hands smelled like cordite, and her heartbeat had found that steady, calm place it only reached after good training. Miller watched her clean the cig with almost religious attention to detail. You're wasted in logistics, he said. I'm exactly where I need to be. Naval Special Warfare Command hummed with its usual controlled chaos. SEALs moving through corridors with that particular swagger earned through Hell Week and combat deployments. Support staff threading between them like minnows around sharks. The smell of coffee and testosterone and purpose. Kira sat at her desk in the logistics pool, surrounded by 3 monitors displaying requisition forms, inventory databases, and shipping manifests. The work was tedious, intentionally so. It left her brain free to work on the real problem, the problem of how Dad really died. The official story was simple. Master Chief Declan Brennan, retired, 58 years old, massive heart attack while hiking, died before paramedics arrived. Memorial service with full honors, flag to the grieving daughter, case closed. But Dad didn't have heart problems. His last physical 6 months before he died had been perfect. His resting heart rate was 52. His blood pressure could have been textbook. He ran marathons for fun, and then one day just stopped. Kira had accepted it at first. Grief did that. Made you accept things because the alternative, questioning, investigating, demanding answers, took energy you didn't have. But then she'd found the folder. 3 months ago, cleaning out his home office, the one she'd been avoiding, because it still smelled like his cologne and gun oil, she'd discovered the file cabinet's false bottom. Dad's hiding place, where he kept the things that mattered. Inside, a manila folder sealed with tape labeled in his handwriting, Desert Mirage, needs investigation. She'd opened it at the kitchen table, hands shaking. Inside were photographs, documents, notes in Dad's tight, precise handwriting, and a single audio cassette tape, the kind nobody used anymore, labeled simply insurance. The photographs showed bodies, 3 of them. An Iraqi man, middle-aged, a woman younger, a teenage girl, maybe 15, all shot at close range, all in civilian clothes. The documents were after-action reports from a 2012 mission in Iraq. Operation Desert Mirage. The official version reported 3 enemy combatants killed during a raid on a suspected terrorist safe house. But Dad's notes told a different story. Not combatants he'd written. Unarmed. Execution style. Hassan al-Dulaimi, city administrator. Wife Aisha. Daughter Layla. Witnessed by Team 5, Thorn Craddock Kellerman. Orders came from CIA case officer. I filed report with SOCOM May 2012. No action taken. Threatened with court-martial if I pursue. The final note dated September 2016, just before his retirement. Taking evidence to Inspector General. They can't suppress this forever. 2 years later, he was dead. Kira had listened to the audio tape 100 times since then. Dad's voice recorded in the field somewhere in Iraq, March 2012. This is Senior Chief Declan Brennan, SEAL Team 3. What I witnessed tonight was not a combat operation. It was murder. 3 unarmed civilians executed at close range by Lieutenant Commander Garrett Thorne, Lieutenant Vaughn Craddock, and Chief Petty Officer Briggs Kellerman. The alleged high-value target, Hassan al-Dulaimi, was a city administrator with no terrorist connections. His crime was discovering a CIA smuggling route through Mosul. This was an assassination to silence a witness. I am filing formal report with Special Operations Command. If anything happens to me, investigate these men. That had been 12 years ago. Dad had filed the report, been ignored, been threatened, forced into retirement, and then conveniently died of a heart attack. Kira had done her research. Potassium chloride injected in the right dose caused cardiac arrest that was nearly undetectable, broke down quickly in the body, no trace after 48 hours. The perfect murder. And 3 of the men Dad had named were still serving, still decorated, still at Naval Special Warfare Command, still walking free. She was so deep in thought that she almost missed it. 1,800 hours, end of shift. Most of the staff had cleared out. Kira was finishing inventory reports, her mind half on the spreadsheet, half on the evidence she'd been quietly accumulating for 3 months. The voices came from the mail locker room adjacent to the logistics office. The door was cracked. Voices carried. Iraq 2012 Operation Desert Mirage. Kira's fingers froze on the keyboard. Brennan filed that report. We handled it. That was Commander Garrett Thorne. She knew his voice. Arrogant. Assured. The kind of voice that expected obedience. Old man's dead now? Different voice. Kellerman. Nobody left, who knows? What about his daughter? Younger voice. Reeves, she works here. Silence. Then Thorne, dismissive. Logistics girl. She's harmless. Probably doesn't even know what her daddy was investigating. Craddock laughed. Even if she did, what's she gonna do? File a complaint? We buried that report so deep it'd take an act of God to resurrect it. Just keep your mouth shut, Thorne said. Another year and we're all out with full pensions. Clean records. No problems. What about the evidence? Reeves again. Nervous. Secured. Off-site. Nobody knows where but us. Footsteps. The locker room door opening. Kira's heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands stayed steady on the keyboard. She kept typing, kept her breathing even, kept her face blank. The four SEALs walked past her desk. Thorne in the lead, Craddock and Kellerman flanking him. Reeves bringing up the rear, looking uncomfortable. Thorne didn't even glance at her. Why would he? She was nobody, just the logistics coordinator. Just Daddy's little girl. That night, Kira sat at her small kitchen table with Dad's files spread out before her. The audio tape played on repeat through her laptop speakers, running through audio enhancement software she'd pirated from a forensics forum. They'd confirmed it. The same men, the same operation. And now she knew they'd buried the evidence somewhere. Evidence she needed to find. Her phone buzzed. Text message from the Naval Special Warfare Command Administrative System. Automated announcement. Mandatory training. All NSAF personnel required to participate in 3-day survival and escape exercise. Warner Springs, a training area starting Friday, 0600. Attendance non-negotiable. Team assignments to follow. Kira stared at the message. Then her phone buzzed again. Team assignment, Team Delta Commander G. Thorne. Team Leader Lieutenant V. Craddock, CPO B. Kellerman, PO1. N. Reeves, K. Brennan, Logistics Support. She read it twice. Then she started to smile. They just made this easy. Warner Springs training area sprawled across 15,000 acres of Cleveland National Forest, 50 miles northeast of San Diego. Mountains, pine forests, rocky terrain. The kind of environment where SEALs learned to survive when everything went wrong. Kira arrived Friday morning with a rucksack containing 40 pounds of gear, sleeping bag, water, MRE's basic survival equipment. Regulation loadout, nothing that would draw attention. But sewn into the liner of her jacket were 3 things that weren't on any equipment list. A micro camera, no bigger than a shirt button, a GPS tracker the size of a quarter, and a digital audio recorder with 48 hours of battery life. Dad had taught her the most important lesson about intelligence work. Everyone looks at what you're carrying. Nobody checks what you're wearing. Team Delta assembled at the staging area as the sun climbed over the eastern ridges. The 5 of them, plus an instructor, who'd give them their briefing and then leave them to it. Thorne looked Kira up and down like she was a piece of equipment he was evaluating. Miss Brennan to him, he said, voice dripping with false courtesy. If this gets too difficult, we can arrange for office duty. No shame in admitting this isn't your environment. Kira met his eyes, kept her voice level. I'll manage, sir. Kellerman muttered something to Craddock. Both of them laughed. She caught the words Daddy's princess and playing soldier. The instructor, a grizzled master chief who looked like he'd been carved from granite, gave them the brief. 15-mile ruck march to the first checkpoint. Land navigation using map and compass, only no GPS. Full pack. 6-hour time limit. This isn't a race, the master chief said, but it is a test. Physical endurance, mental toughness, teamwork. The teams need operators who can function when everything hurts and nothing's certain. Show me you belong here. He looked directly at Kira when he said it. Thorne took point automatically. Alpha male behavior, establishing dominance. The other SEALs fell in behind him in practice formation. Kira took up the rear. Nobody questioned it. That's where the weak link went, where they could keep an eye on her when she inevitably started to fail. They had no idea she wanted to be in the rear. The terrain was brutal, steep climbs, rocky descents. Trails that weren't really trails, just suggestions of paths through dense underbrush. The pack straps cut into Kira's shoulders. Her legs burned. Her lungs worked like bellows. She loved every minute of it. This was what Dad had trained her for. Not the office, not the paperwork. This, the physical challenge, the mental game, the push beyond what your body wanted to do into what it could do. By mile 3, Thorne was setting a punishing pace, testing her, waiting for her to call for a break. She didn't. By mile 5, they'd lost the trail twice. Thorne's navigation was sloppy arrogant. He was using terrain association instead of precise compass work, assuming his experience would compensate. Kira said nothing, just noted the errors, calculated the corrections they'd need. By mile 8, Thorne finally admitted they were off course. "Goddamn map must be out of date," he muttered, staring at the topographic sheet. Kira stepped forward. "May I, sir?" He looked at her like she'd suggested she could fly. "You think you can navigate better than a SEAL commander?" "I think I can get us back on course, sir." The contempt in his eyes was palpable, but they were already 2 hours into the march with 7 miles to go. Pride wouldn't get them to the checkpoint on time. He handed her the map. Kira studied it for exactly 45 seconds. Then she pointed to a ridgeline 300 meters to their northeast. "We're here, we need to be there." She indicated the checkpoint location. "If we cut through this valley instead of following the trail system, we'll save 2 miles in 40 minutes. Steeper terrain, but manageable." Craddock laughed. "That route goes through Hell's Canyon. It's called that for a reason, sweetheart." "I'm aware, sir." She looked at Thorne. "It's your call, Commander." The silence stretched. She could see him calculating. If he refused and they missed the time limit, he'd look incompetent. If he accepted and she was wrong, he could blame her. "Fine," he said. "Lead the way." So she did. Hell's Canyon earned its name. 60-degree slopes. Loose scree that shifted under every step. Exposed sections where one wrong move meant a 50-foot tumble into rocks. Kira moved through it like she was on a nature walk. She'd spent every weekend from age 10 to 16 hiking these mountains with Dad. He'd taught her to read terrain like it was a book, to see the safe paths that weren't obvious, to move with confidence even when the ground seemed impossible. Behind her, she heard Kellerman slip, curse, catch himself. She didn't look back. They emerged from the canyon with 3 miles to go and 90 minutes on the clock. Kira handed the map back to Thorne. "Straight shot from here, sir. Should make it with time to spare." His jaw was tight. "Good work, Brennan." It wasn't gratitude. It was the acknowledgement a wolf gives when a smaller predator shows unexpected teeth. They made the checkpoint with 43 minutes remaining. The instructor looked genuinely surprised. "I'll be damned. Team Delta first to arrive. Who was navigating?" Thorne hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Then Kira spoke up. "Commander Thorne, sir." He selected the route. The instructor nodded, made a note on his clipboard. Kira saw the look Thorne gave here, not gratitude for covering for him. Something else. Calculation. That evening, the teams made camp in a meadow surrounded by pines. 50 personnel, total SEALs, support staff instructors. Campfires. MRE meals. That particular exhausted satisfaction that came from hard physical work. Kira set up her tent away from Team Delta's area, close enough to be part of the group, far enough to be forgotten. She waited until 2200 hours. Full dark. Most personnel asleep or close to it. Then she slipped out. The PVS-14 night vision monocular borrowed from the equipment pool using her logistics access turned the darkness into green-tinted daylight. She moved through the forest like Dad had taught her. Slow, deliberate, testing each footfall before committing weight. Invisible. She'd clipped the microcamera to a tree branch overlooking Team Delta's campsite earlier. Now she just had to check if it had caught anything useful. But she didn't need the camera, because at 22:37 hours, Thorne, Craddock, and Kellerman emerged from their tents and headed into the forest. Kira followed. They hiked 2 miles through terrain that should have been impassable in darkness. But they had night vision too, and they moved like men who'd done this before, who knew exactly where they were going. They stopped at a clearing marked by 3 distinctive pines growing in a triangle, distinctive enough to find again, remote enough that nobody would stumble across it. Kellerman had a folding shovel, started digging. It took him 15 minutes to uncover the military footlocker. Standard issue, waterproof, the kind used to transport sensitive equipment. They opened it. Even at 75 yards, Kira could see the contents through her camera's telephoto lens. Cash, stacks of it, hundreds, fifties, at least $180,000. Hard drives, 3 of them. Military-grade ruggedized, documents. Too far to read, but she could see the classification markings. Thorne was talking. Kira's directional microphone picked up fragments. Move it after this exercise. Aldridge wants his cut. Brennan's kid keep an eye on her. Her heart hammered, but her hands stayed steady. She took 247 photographs, recorded 8 minutes of audio, noted the GPS coordinates. Then they reburied the footlocker, covered their tracks, headed back to camp. Kira waited 30 minutes. Then she moved to the burial site. She didn't dig it up, didn't disturb anything. She just attached the GPS tracker to the underside of the footlocker's handle. Military grade, waterproof, ground-penetrating signal designed for buried munitions tracking. Battery life of 30 days. Signal range of 5 miles even through soil and rock. Day 2 started with combat drills. The instructors set up a series of stations, hand-to-hand techniques, weapons retention, close quarters battle scenarios. All the skills that kept you alive when everything went wrong. At the unarmed combat station, the instructor, a massive chief who looked like he could bend steel bars, called for volunteers. I need someone to demonstrate defensive techniques against a larger, stronger opponent. Craddock's hand shot up. I'll do it, Chief. Good. Now I need a volunteer to play the defender. Silence. Everyone knew what was coming. The defender was about to get thrown around like a rag doll. Educational but not pleasant. How about you, Miss Brennan? Craddock smiled. All teeth. Give you a chance to show us what Daddy taught you. Every eye turned to her. Kira stood, walked to the demonstration area. The chief looked concerned. Ma'am, Lieutenant Craddock outweighs you by about 90 pounds. It's fine, Chief. Let's do it. Craddock rolled his shoulders, stretched his neck, making a show of it. The chief sighed. Right, Lieutenant, attack at about 70%. This is education, not... Craddock moved before the chief finished speaking. Fast, professional. A lunging grab meant to secure Kira's jacket and set up a hip throw. Kira was faster. She deflected his gripping hand with a sharp outward strike, trapped his extended arm, stepped inside his center line, used his forward momentum against him. The throw was textbook, the kind Dad had drilled into her 10,000 times. Hip placement perfect, leverage instead of strength, physics instead of muscle. Craddock hit the mat with a sound like a dropped sandbag, 4.2 seconds from initial contact to completion. Kira maintained her grip on his wrist, applied just enough pressure to the nerve cluster to make him extremely uncomfortable. She leaned close, whispered so only he could hear. Dad taught me that when I was 12. Then she released him, stepped back, helped him up like a courteous training partner. The clearing was dead silent. Then someone started clapping. Others joined. Within seconds, applause rippled through the 50 personnel. Craddock's face was crimson, rage and humiliation warring behind his eyes. The chief was grinning. Well, I'd say Miss Brennan just demonstrated that technique beats size. Questions? There were no questions. Kira returned to her spot in the formation. Didn't smile, didn't gloat, just stood at attention like nothing had happened. But she felt Thorne's eyes on her, calculating, reassessing. The live fire exercise came that afternoon. M4A1 carbines, standard seal weapon, 5.56 millimeter. Effective range 300 meters. The exercise was simple: 40 targets at varying distances, 50 to 300 meters. Score based on accuracy and time. The range was set up on a hillside, targets arranged in tactical scenarios, doorways, windows around corners, partially concealed. Real-world shooting. Thorne went first. 37 hits, solid performance. Time 4 minutes, 12 seconds. Craddock 35 hits, 4 minutes 30 seconds. Kellerman 38 hits, 4 minutes 8 seconds. Reeves 39 hits, 3 minutes 58 seconds. Then Kira. She approached the firing line with Dad's voice in her head. Not coaching, just present. Front sight, trigger control, follow through. The range master handed her the M4. She checked the chamber, examined the optic, loaded the magazine. 30 rounds. She'd need 2 magazines for 40 targets. Shooter ready. Ready. Stand by. The buzzer sounded. Kira moved. The first 10 targets were 50 meters. She engaged them rapidly, trigger resets, smooth breathing controlled. 2 rounds per target. Standard doctrine. Each pair fired in under a second. Transition to 100-meter targets. Slower cadence. More precision required. Front sight focus, smooth trigger, press. The targets dropped. 200 meters. Wind was picking up left to right, maybe 6 miles per hour. She adjusted her hold slightly. Compensation built into muscle memory. Dad drilling her in crosswinds, headwinds, quartering winds until the adjustments became instinctive. Magazine change at target 20. Speed reload. Magazine out. Fresh magazine and bolt release. 2.3 seconds. 300 meters. The hardest shots. Small targets. Wind. Elevation. The rifle's limitations starting to show. But Dad had taught her to love the hard shots. She settled into position, controlled her breathing, let her heart rate drop, found that quiet space between heartbeats where the rifle was absolutely still. Press. The target fell. Again and again. When she finished, her shoulders ached from the rifle's recoil. Her ears rang despite hearing protection. But her breathing was still controlled, still calm. The rangemaster checked the targets, walked back. 40 targets, 40 hits. Silence. Time 3 minutes, 18 seconds. More silence. Then the rangemaster looked at her. Where the hell did you learn to shoot like that? Kira safed the rifle. My father, sir, Master Chief Declan Brennan. Recognition flickered across the man's face. Ghost Brennan. I served with him in the teams. Hell of an operator. Yes, sir, he was. The rangemaster turned to the assembled group. Gentlemen, that's the highest score we've had this year. By 14 seconds. Miss Brennan just beat every SEAL on this range. He looked back at Kira, added quietly, your dad would be proud. The words hit harder than she'd expected. She just nodded. Didn't trust her voice. When she turned to leave the firing line, she caught Thorne's expression. It wasn't embarrassment anymore. It was something else. Something colder. That night, she heard them talking. 2100 hours. Team Delta clustered around their fire. Voices low. Kira was in her tent 30 meters away, but the directional mic picked them up clearly. Getting to be a problem, Kellerman. She's just a coordinator who can shoot. Craddock, still bitter from the morning's humiliation. She's more than that. Thorne, thoughtful, dangerous. You saw how she moved today. That wasn't recreational training. That was operator-level performance. So what, Kellerman? Daddy taught her some tricks. Doesn't mean she's a threat. Her father died investigating Desert Mirage. Now she's here, working at Off Command, assigned to our training group. You think that's coincidence? Silence. What are you saying, Craddock? I'm saying we need to find out what she knows, and if she knows too much. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Kira lay in her sleeping bag, listening, her heart rate steady, recording every word. They just confirmed it, she thought. They killed Dad, and now they're talking about killing me. The smart move would have been to pack up, leave the exercise, go straight to NCIS with everything she had. But she didn't have enough, not yet. Audio recordings could be questioned. Photographs could be dismissed. She needed the hard drives, the physical evidence, the proof that couldn't be denied, and she knew exactly how to get it. Day 3, the final exercise. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, the lead instructor announced. Real SEER training. You'll be split into evaders and pursuers. Evaders have 4 hours to reach the extraction point without being caught. Pursuers have to find them. He looked at the Team Delta roster. Miss Brennan, you're an evader. The rest of Team Delta, you're pursuers. Test starts at 1800 hours. Kira saw Thorne smile. This wasn't random selection. This was them setting her up. 1800 hours arrived with the sun low on the western ridges, long shadows stretching through the pines. Kira was given a 30-minute head start. No equipment except basic survival gear. No weapons, no communication device. Just her, the forest, and four men who wanted answers. She moved fast for the first 10 minutes, putting distance between herself and the start point. Then she did something they wouldn't expect. She doubled back, circled wide, used terrain to mask her movement, and positioned herself 200 meters from their staging area. She watched them prepare. Thorne gave the orders. We're not trying to find her, we're trying to teach her a lesson. Make her understand that playing investigator gets you hurt. Craddock, what did you have in mind? We find her, secure her, leave her somewhere uncomfortable. See how long that confidence lasts. They spread out, started their search. Kira let them pass. Then she followed them. For 2 hours, she shadowed the hunters, watching their patterns, learning their tactics, staying always just out of sight, just out of hearing. This was seer training, all right, just not the kind they expected. At 20-30 hours, she made herself visible, just for a moment, a flicker of movement across a ridgeline. There, Kellerman. They converged on her position, found nothing. She led them deeper into the forest, away from the camp, away from witnesses, to the place she'd chosen. The massive white oak stood in a small clearing, 60 feet tall, branches spreading like skeletal fingers. Perfect for what came next. She let them catch her. Thorne grabbed her arm. End of the line, Brennan. She didn't resist. Craddock zip-tied her wrists. Military-grade restraints, double-locked, the kind that cut circulation, the kind that hurt. You've been asking questions, Thorne said, voice conversational, almost friendly. About Desert Mirage, about your father, about things that are none of your business. I don't know what you mean, sir. Don't play stupid. We know you found your father's files. We know you've been investigating. So here's what's going to happen. You are going to stop. You're going to forget everything you think you know, and you're going to transfer out of Nisauflage command. Are we clear? Kira met his eyes. Crystal clear, sir. Good. He gestured to the tree. But just so we're sure the message sinks in, they hoisted her up with practiced efficiency. Rope over the branch, secured to her bound wrists, pulled until her boots barely scraped bark 15 feet off the ground. The pain was immediate, intense. Her shoulders screamed, her wrists went numb. Thorne stood below looking up. This is real seer training, Brennan. This is what happens when you get caught, when you piss off the wrong people. He smiled. Try to escape in 30 minutes. We'll be watching from camp. The implied threat was clear, or don't. See how long you last. They walked away, laughing, congratulating each other, and Kira hung there in the gathering dark alone for exactly 45 seconds. Then she got to work. The pain was extraordinary. Dad had taught her about pain, how to categorize it, how to function through it, how to use it. Pain is data, he'd said. It tells you what's damaged, what needs protecting, what you can push through. Her shoulders were damaged. Her wrists were losing circulation. But nothing was broken. Nothing was torn. She could work with that. First, the escape. She bent at the waist, explosive ab contraction, ignoring the shriek from her shoulders, and brought her knees up. Hooked her right foot into the rope above her hands. The tree branch was rough, provided friction. She pulled herself up 6 inches, then another 6. Each movement agony, each movement progress. When her face was level with her bound wrists, she brought her right thumb to her mouth. If you're ever restrained, Dad had taught her the thumb is your weakness and your strength. Dislocated and even tight bonds can be escaped. She bit down on the joint, positioned it carefully. Then she torqued her hands sideways with vicious force. The pop was audible. The pain, white-hot, nauseating, made her vision gray out for 3 seconds. But her hand slipped through the zip tie. Her left hand was still secured. Her right hand was dislocated and useless. But she could reach the knife in her boot. Wait, they'd searched her, taken her knife. No problem. She reached higher on the branch. Fumbled for the 550 paracord she'd hidden there yesterday. Exactly as planned. The cord she'd placed specifically for this scenario. She'd known they'd try something like this, so she'd prepared. The paracord gave her leverage. She looped it around the branch, created a friction wrap, and used it to climb higher into the tree's canopy, away from the rope, into the shadows. Then she relocated her thumb, another spike of agony, another graying of vision, and used her teeth to remove the zip tie from her left wrist. Free. 15 feet up in an oak tree, arms screaming, but free. She didn't climb down. Instead, she moved through the branches, tree to tree, using the canopy as a highway, exactly like Dad had taught her when she was 14. Fight like prey, move like a predator, he'd said. They expect ground movement, so go up. She circled back toward their camp, found a position with perfect overwatch, settled in, and waited. At 2130 hours, they returned to check on her, found the empty rope. Thorne's voice carried clearly, "What the hell? She couldn't have Kellerman. Find her now." They spread out, searching the ground, looking for tracks, for signs of direction, never looking up. Kira smiled in the darkness. She clicked on the micro recorder hidden in her jacket lining, the one that had captured every word they'd said, every threat, every admission. Then she whispered, "Dad, I'm coming for them. All of them." She waited another 30 minutes. Let them search. Let them panic. Then she moved through the canopy back toward the main camp, emerged from the forest on the opposite side of where they were searching, walked into camp like she'd just returned from a nature hike. When Thorne and his team stumbled back into the light, an hour later, sweating frustrated, furious, they found her calmly drinking coffee by the communal fire. She looked up as they approached, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just said quietly, "I managed, sir. Thanks for the training." The look Thorne gave her could have melted steel, but he said nothing. What could he say? That they'd tried to intimidate her and she'd beaten them? That they'd hung her from a tree and she'd escaped in under 10 minutes? That she'd just proven she was better trained, better prepared, and more dangerous than any of them had imagined? He couldn't say any of that. So he just stood there, rage simmering behind his eyes. And Kira knew. She'd just declared war. And she intended to win. The San Diego sunrise painted Kira's windshield gold as she drove back from Warner Springs Monday morning, but she barely noticed. Her mind was cataloging, processing, planning. 3 audio recordings, 247 photographs, 1 GPS tracker broadcasting coordinates every 15 minutes, and the absolute certainty that Commander Garrett Thorne and his team had murdered her father. Now she just had to prove it. Her apartment smelled stale when she walked in. 3 days away always did that. She dropped her pack by the door, went straight to the kitchen, and started coffee. While it brewed, she pulled out her laptop and downloaded everything from the hidden micro camera and audio recorder. The footage was damning. Crystal clear shots of the 3 SEALs digging up the foot locker, opening it, counting cash, handling hard drives like they contained nuclear launch codes. And the audio Thorne's voice discussing Aldridge and the Brennan kid and keeping things quiet. But it wasn't enough. Any defense attorney worth their retainer could argue the video was taken illegally, could claim the audio was doctored, could explain away the Kish's personal savings, the hard drives, as backup files. She needed the actual evidence. The hard drives themselves, the documents, proof that couldn't be explained away or suppressed. She checked the GPS tracker's location. The footlocker had moved, no longer buried in Warner Springs. Now it was transmitting from somewhere in National City 8 miles south. A storage facility based on the satellite imagery. Secure Space Storage, Unit 247. She smiled into her coffee. They'd made it easy. Her phone buzzed. Text message from a number she didn't recognize. But the area code was local and the message made her blood run cold. "Need to talk, today. It's about your father. Coronado Beach, South End, 0600 tomorrow. Come alone. Destroy this message." No signature. She stared at it for 30 seconds, mind racing through possibilities. Trap. Obviously could be a trap. Thorne setting up another intimidation play or worse. But the message mentioned Dad, and whoever sent it knew her number. Knew to be cryptic. She deleted the message. Then she started preparing for tomorrow morning. Coronado Beach at 0600 hours was a study in gray. Gray water, gray sky, gray sand still wet from high tide. The only color came from a handful of early joggers in their neon gear specks of brightness against the monochrome dawn. Kira arrived 20 minutes early, positioned herself with clear sight lines in all directions, watched the approaches. One hand stayed near the SIG P26 in her waistband holster hidden under her jacket. At exactly 0600, a figure emerged from the beach access path, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with that particular seal gait like a wolf pretending to be a dog. As he got closer, Kira recognized him. Roland McKenna, Command Master Chief retired, 68 years old, but built like a man 20 years younger. Silver hair cut high and tight, bars visible on his forearms. Eyes that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. Dad's best friend. Kira's hand moved away from her weapon. McKenna stopped 10 feet away, studied her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "You look like him," he said finally. Same eyes, same way of standing. Like you're always ready for the next fight. Master Chief McKenna. Just Pops now. Been retired 6 years. He gestured to a concrete bench overlooking the water. Walk with me. They walked in silence for a minute, boots crunching on sand waves, providing white noise that would defeat any directional microphones. McKenna spoke first. Your dad told me if anything happened to him, you'd figure it out eventually. Told me you were smart, persistent, trained. Said if I saw you start asking questions, I should help. Help how? He pulled a manila envelope from inside his jacket, weathered, sealed with tape that had yellowed with age. Dad's handwriting across the front for Roland. Open only if I die unexpectedly. Kira's hand shook slightly as she took it. He gave me that in 2016, McKenna said, 2 years before he died. Said if anything happened, anything that didn't make sense, I should give it to you. She broke the seal. Inside were documents, photographs, a mini cassette tape, the kind nobody used anymore, and a letter in Dad's tight, precise handwriting. The letter was dated September 15th, 2016. Kira, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and it probably wasn't natural causes. I've been investigating Operation Desert Mirage since 2012. What I discovered was murder disguised as a combat operation. 3 unarmed Iraqi civilians executed to protect a CIA drug trafficking route through Mosul. I filed reports, was ignored, was threatened. They forced my retirement to silence me. But I kept copies of everything. Photos, financial records, communications. The evidence is in this envelope. The men responsible, Commander Garrett Thorne, Lieutenant Vaughn Craddock, Chief Petty Officer Briggs Kellerman, the CIA case officer who ordered the hit, Marcus Aldridge. They were paid $600,000, $200,000 each for the 3 SEALs. I was going to take this to the Inspector General in October 2016. If I'm dead, they got to me first. I'm sorry, baby girl. Sorry I trained you for a war you shouldn't have to fight. But if anyone can get justice for those 3 murdered civilians for me, it's you. Remember what I taught you. Calm thinking saves, trust your training, and never ever give up. I love you. I'm proud of you. Finish this, Dad. Kira read it 3 times. Her eyes burned but stayed dry. She'd cried herself out months ago. Now there was only purpose. McKenna watched her. He knew they'd come for him eventually. Knew he couldn't let it go. That was Deck. Once he saw something wrong, he couldn't walk away. Tell me what happened. Her voice was steady, controlled. Desert Mirage. All of it. McKenna stared out at the ocean. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old guilt. March 2012, Iraq. Your dad and I were both on the deployment, different teams, but same area of operations. Team 5 got a tasking from CIA. High-value target in Mosul. Supposed terrorist financier. Standard direct action raid. He paused, gathered his thoughts. The team was Thorne as officer in charge, Craddock as second Kellerman, as breachers, your dad as overwatch sniper plus 4 others. They hit the target location at 0300. Your dad was on a rooftop 400 meters out, providing overwatch through his scope. What did he see? 3 people cable-tied, on their knees, bags over their heads. Thorne removed the bags one at a time, had a conversation with the first one, middle-aged Iraqi man, then shot him in the head, repeated the process with the woman. Then the teenage girl. Kira felt her jaw tighten. Execution style. Your dad radioed immediately, reported what he'd seen. Thorne told him to stand down. It was justified enemy kills. But Dex saw the whole thing through his scope, saw their faces, saw they were terrified but not combative, saw there were no weapons anywhere in the room. McKenna pulled out his phone, showed her photographs from the envelope. 3 bodies, 3 faces frozen in death. Hassan al-Dulaimi, city administrator for Mosul, his wife Aisha, their daughter Layla, 15 years old. What was his crime? He discovered a CIA operation. They were smuggling weapons through Mosul to Syrian rebel groups. Except those rebels were selling half the weapons to ISIS. Hassan was going to report it to the Iraqi government and the international press. So the CIA decided he was a problem that needed solving. And they used SEALs to do it. They used corrupted SEALs. Most of the teams are good men. But Thorne, McKenna shook his head. He'd been on CIA's payroll for years. Black bag work. Stuff that couldn't have official sanction. This was just another job to him. Kira looked at the photographs. 3 people who died because they tried to do the right thing, just like Dad. What happened after the mission? Your dad filed a report with Special Operations Command in May 2012. Formal war crimes accusation. SOCOM opened an investigation. McKenna's voice went bitter, which went exactly nowhere. The CIA leaned on the investigating officers, classified everything, declared the kills justified under rules of engagement. Case closed. And Dad, he wouldn't let it go, kept pushing, kept filing complaints. So they went after his career, trumped up insubordination charges, fitness reports that suddenly went negative. They made it clear retire or face court-martial on fabricated charges. So he retired in 2016. But he still had the evidence, still planned to take it public. He was scheduled to meet with an inspector general investigator in October 2016. McKenna's voice dropped. That meeting never happened. He died 2 years later. Heart attack. Except your dad's heart was perfect. I saw his last physical. No problems, no risk factors. Kira pulled out her phone, showed McKenna the audio files she'd recorded at Warner Springs, played the conversation where Thorne discussed handling the Brennan problem. McKenna listened with an expression like stone. That's a confession, he said quietly. It's circumstantial. Defense attorney would claim he was talking about something else. But combined with the evidence in this envelope, she tapped the documents. We have a case. I can't do this alone, Pops. I need help. Someone who knows the system. Someone Dad trusted. McKenna looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, fierce and proud. Deck told me you were tough as boot leather. Looks like he was right. He extended his hand. I'm in. Whatever you need. They shook. I need access to those hard drives, Kira said. The ones they buried at Warner Springs. They moved them to a storage facility in National City, Unit 247 at Secure Space Storage. You tracked them. She told him about the GPS device, about the evidence she'd gathered, about everything that had happened at Warner Springs. McKenna listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was grinning. Your dad taught you well, but breaking into that storage unit is a felony. If we're caught, everything gets thrown out and we go to prison. I know. And you still want to do it. They murdered my father. I'm all in. McKenna nodded slowly. Then we better plan this right, because we only get one shot. They spent 3 hours on that beach watching the sun climb and the joggers multiply, planning an operation that would either bring justice or destroy them both. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. They needed to access the storage unit, photograph everything inside, copy the hard drives, and document the evidence without leaving traces. All while avoiding security cameras, guards, and the very real possibility that Thorne had the place under surveillance. McKenna had resources. 6 years retired, but still connected. Still had friends in the teams and intelligence in places that didn't officially exist. By Wednesday, they had everything they needed. By Friday, they were ready. Friday night arrived with cloud cover that made the darkness absolute, perfect for what they needed to do. Kira sat in McKenna's pickup truck, 2 blocks from Secure Space Storage, running final checks on her equipment. Black clothing, No logos, no identifying marks. Gloves. A small backpack containing lockpicks, a portable SSD for copying data, and a camera. Her SIG P226 in a concealed holster just in case. McKenna was in the driver's seat, laptop open, monitoring the storage facility's security cameras through a backdoor exploit one of his friends had provided. The hack wouldn't last long, maybe 45 minutes before their intrusion was detected, but it would give them a window. Cameras are looping, McKenna said. You've got your 45-minute window. After that, all bets are off. Kira checked her watch. 2,200 hours. What about the guard? Makes his rounds every 30 minutes. Just finished one. You've got 28 minutes before he's back in that section. She opened the door, paused. If this goes wrong, it won't. You're Deck's daughter. You've got this. She nodded, disappeared into the darkness. The fence around secure space was 8 feet of chain link topped with razor wire, meant to deter casual thieves. Kira went over it in 12 seconds, using a technique Dad had taught her that involved momentum and precise hand placement. The razor wire never touched her. She dropped silently on the other side and moved through shadows to Building C. The storage units were arranged in long corridors, indoor access, climate controlled. Unit 247 was on the second floor east wing. She took the stairs, encountered no one. The building was quiet except for the hum of ventilation and the distant sound of traffic on the interstate. Unit 247 had a standard commercial padlock. Master lock, pick resistant, but not pick proof. Kira had been practicing on identical locks for 3 days. She knelt, inserted the tension wrench, applied slight pressure, then worked the pick with delicate touches, feeling for the pins. 1, 2, 3, 4, click. 47 seconds. The unit door rolled up with a soft rattle. Inside was exactly what the GPS tracker had promised. The military footlocker, plus 3 cardboard boxes stacked beside it. She photographed everything from multiple angles, then opened the footlocker. Cash. More than she'd seen at Warner Springs. Had to be over $200,000. She photographed every bundle, noting serial numbers on a dozen random bills. Hard drives. 3 of them military-grade ruggedized externals, each labeled with masking tape, DM 2012-1, DM 2012-2, DM 2012-3. Desert Mirage 2012. She connected the first drive to her portable SSD and initiated the copy. 40 gigabytes of data. The progress bar estimated 12 minutes. While it copied, she went through the boxes. Financial documents, bank statements showing wire transfers to offshore accounts, dates matching March through May 2012. Amounts $200,000 to an account registered to Garrett Thorne, $200,000 to Vaughn Craddock, $200,000 to Briggs Kellerman. Email printouts, communications between an account labeled GT and another labeled MA, Marcus Aldridge, almost certainly. The emails detailed the contract for eliminating the Mosul problem. Clinical language, businesslike, discussing murder like it was a real estate transaction. And at the bottom of the third box, a DVD in a clear plastic case, labeled Helmet Cam Footage 03-15-2012. Kira's hands trembled as she held it. This was it. Video evidence, the kind that couldn't be denied or explained away. The first hard drive finished copying. She swapped in the second, then the third. 24 minutes total. She photographed every document, every page, and every piece of paper in those boxes. When she finished, she had 3,218 photographs, 120 gigabytes of data and video footage that would bury Thorne forever. She was replacing the last box when she heard footsteps in the corridor. 2 sets, moving with tactical precision. She froze, listened. Supposed to be on the second floor. That voice, she knew that voice. Lieutenant Vaughn Craddock. Motion sensor triggered. Chief Petty Officer Briggs Kellerman. They were here, right now, checking on the storage unit, which meant this wasn't a random patrol, which meant trap, the GPS tracker. They'd found it, had to have, found it and left it in place, waited for her to make her move. Kira's mind raced through options. The storage unit had 1 exit. The corridor beyond had 2 men between her and the stairs. Men who were armed, men who wanted her dead. She could try to bluff, claim she was investigating a different unit, but they'd see the open footlocker, see the evidence spread out, know exactly what she'd been doing. She could try to fight, But two armed SEALs in close quarters against one woman with a pistol, even with Dad's training, those were bad odds. Or she could do what they wouldn't expect. She pulled the SIG Pete, thumbed off the safety, took a position beside the door. The footsteps got closer. Unit 247, Craddock said. Door's open. She's in there. Good. Time to have a conversation about boundaries. They appeared in the doorway, Craddock leading Kellerman 2 steps behind. Both had Glock 19s drawn but not raised. Confident, expecting a scared logistics coordinator, maybe crying, maybe begging. They got something else. Kira was already moving. She kicked the portable SSD toward Craddock hard fast, a projectile aimed at his face. His reflex was exactly what she'd counted on. He flinched, tried to catch it, and his gun hand dropped for just a fraction of a second. She closed the distance. 12 feet became 6, became 3. Her left hand struck his wrist, driving the Glock's muzzle offline. Her right drove the SIG's barrel into his solar plexus. Drop it. Craddock gasped. Wind knocked out, but he was a professional. Tried to bring his weapon back on target. Kira didn't give him the chance. She executed a disarm technique Dad had drilled into her 10,000 times. Strike the wrist, control the weapon hand, rotate, apply pressure. The Glock clattered to the concrete floor. Behind Craddock, Kellerman was bringing his weapon up. Kira used Craddock as a shield, twisted him around, drove her knee into his kidney. He buckled. Kellerman had a shot. Should have taken it. But he hesitated, maybe afraid of hitting Craddock, maybe just shocked that the logistics girl was winning, and hesitation was death in combat. Kira shoved Craddock at Kellerman. Both men stumbled. She dropped low, swept Kellerman's legs. He went down hard. She could have shot them both. Center mass, 2 rounds each. 15 seconds and they'd be bleeding out on the concrete. But that would make her a murderer, would destroy any chance of justice. Instead, she ran, sprinted down the corridor toward the stairs. Behind her curses, scrambling, the metallic sound of slides being racked. Stop or I'll shoot, Kellerman. She didn't stop. A gunshot, incredibly loud in the enclosed space. The round sparked off metal 10 feet to her left. Warning shot, or bad aim, didn't matter. She hit the stairs, took them 4 at a time, heard them behind her, boots pounding. Ground floor, emergency exit. Alarm would sound, but she didn't care. Slammed through the door into the parking lot. McKenna's pickup was already moving, engine roaring. He'd heard the shot, knew the plan had gone sideways. Kira sprinted. 50 meters, 40, 30, another gunshot. This one closer. They were at the door, 20 meters. The pickup's passenger door flew open. 10 meters, she dove. Hit the seat. McKenna was accelerating before she was fully inside. More gunshots, the rear window shattered. Glass everywhere. But they were moving, 60 miles per hour, 70. McKenna took a hard right, then a left, threading through residential streets with the skill of someone who'd done evasive driving in far more hostile places than San Diego. 3 minutes later, they were on the interstate, lost in traffic, just another pickup among thousands. McKenna looked at her. You good? Kira checked herself. No holes, no blood, just adrenaline and the shakes that always came after combat. I'm good. Got everything? She held up the portable SSD. McKenna grinned. Your dad would have loved this. Dad would have told me I was insane. Yeah, that too. They drove to McKenna's safe house, a small rental in National City paid in cash, registered under a name that didn't exist. Once inside, they spread out the evidence on the kitchen table. The hard drives contained everything Dad had promised. After action reports with 2 different versions, the real one describing executions, the sanitized one describing combat kills. Communications between Thorne and CIA officer Marcus Aldridge detailing the contract. Financial records showing payments. And the video. They watched it on McKenna's laptop. Helmet camera footage from March 15, 2012. Night vision, green tinted, crystal clear. 4 men entering a building. Hassan al-Dulaimi cable-tied and kneeling. His wife beside him, their daughter crying. Thorne removing Hassan's hood, speaking to him in Arabic. Hassan shaking his head, pleading. Thorne placing his pistol against Hassan's temple. The shot, the body falling. Aisha screaming behind her hood. Thorne moving to her. Another shot. Layla sobbing. 15 years old and about to die, and she knew it. The third shot. Then Thorne's voice on the radio. 3 enemy combatants eliminated. Package secure. McKenna stopped the video. His face was gray. That's a war crime, he said quietly. That's murder, and they used the teams to do it. Kira's phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. You shouldn't have done that. Now there are consequences. Check the news. She pulled up local news on her phone. The headline stopped her heart. Decorated Navy SEAL killed in home invasion. Chief Petty Officer Briggs Kellerman, 37, was found dead in his home Friday night. San Diego police report he was shot during an apparent robbery. No suspects in custody. The article included his photo, his service record, his decorations, and a quote from Commander Garrett Thorne. Briggs was a hero and a brother. Whoever did this will face justice. We take care of our own. Kira stared at the screen. They killed him, she whispered. They killed Kellerman, and they're going to frame me. McKenna read over her shoulder. His expression went from shock to fury in 2 seconds. Ballistics, he said. They'll match the weapon to your SIG. They probably stole a spent casing from the range where you practice. Planted at the scene. Your DNA from hair they took from your locker. They're boxing you in. Why kill their own man? Loose end, Kellerman was always the weak link. Too much conscience. After tonight, after they knew you had evidence, Thorne decided to clean house and blame you. Kira's phone rang. She didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. Thorne's voice. Calm. Almost friendly. Kira, you've been busy tonight. Breaking and entering. Assault and now murder. That's quite a crime spree. I didn't kill anyone. The evidence says different. Ballistics will match your weapon, your DNA at the scene. And I have 2 witnesses who'll testify you threatened Kellerman yesterday. You're done. You're framing me for your crime. I'm eliminating a problem. Last chance, Kira. Destroy everything you stole tonight. Turn yourself in. Take a plea deal. Maybe you get 20 years instead of life. Or I kill everyone you care about. Starting with that old man you're staying with, Roland McKenna. Yes, I know where you are. I know everything. The line went dead. McKenna already had his pistol out, checking the windows, the doors. He's bluffing. He doesn't know this location. He knew your name. I'm not exactly invisible, kid. Anybody could have figured out you'd come to me. Kira's mind raced. They had the evidence. They had proof. But they were also fugitives now, wanted for murder. If they went to the police, would anyone believe them? Or would they just be arrested? Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Another text. FBI Special Agent Nicole Torres. I've been investigating CIA Officer Marcus Aldridge for 3 years. I know what your father discovered. I know what Thorne did. I can help, but you need to trust me. Below the text was a phone number and a single word, now. Kira showed McKenna. He shook his head. Could be Thorne, could be a trap. Or it could be our only chance. She dialed the number. A woman's voice answered. Professional, direct. This line is encrypted. Talk freely. How do I know you're FBI? You don't. But in 45 minutes, NCIS is going to issue a warrant for your arrest. In 90 minutes, every law enforcement agency in California will be looking for you. So you can trust me or you can run. Your choice. What do you want? I want Marcus Aldridge. I want Garrett Thorne. I want everyone involved in Desert Mirage. Your father tried to expose them in 2012. I've been trying since 2021. Together we can finish this. Why should I believe you? Because I have evidence too. Different evidence. Communications, financial records, testimony from Iraqi witnesses. But I need what you have. The video, the hard drives, the smoking gun. Kira looked at McKenna. He shrugged. Your call, she made the decision. Where do we meet? There's a diner in El Cajon, Mario's, 24 hours, booth in the back, 1 hour. How will I know you? I'll be the one who doesn't try to arrest you. 1 hour, Kira, don't be late. The line went dead. McKenna started packing. If this goes wrong, I know, but it's the only play we have. They loaded everything into the truck, the hard drives, the photographs, the documents, everything that could prove what Thorne had done. As they drove toward El Cajon, Kira watched the city lights blur past. Somewhere out there, Thorne was hunting them. Kellerman was dead, and she was wanted for a murder she didn't commit. But she had the evidence, she had the truth, and she had her father's voice in her head, steady as always. Never give up, Kira. Never surrender. Fight until you can't fight anymore. Then fight some more. She touched the Sig P-26 at her waist. I'm coming for you, Thorne, she whispered. All of you. McKenna glanced at her. What? Nothing. Just making a promise. They drove into the night toward a meeting that would either save them or destroy them, carrying evidence that could topple empires or get them killed. And Kira Brennan, 28 years old logistics coordinator turned fugitive investigator, was exactly where her father had trained her to be, in the light. 20 minutes later, they pulled into Mario's parking lot. The neon sign flickered against the night sky. Through the fogged windows, Kira could see scattered patrons, truckers, late-night workers, people who asked no questions. McKenna cut the engine. 15 minutes. If you're not out, I'm coming in. Kira nodded, checked the Sig P-226 one more time, then stepped out into the cold El Cajon night, walking toward a meeting that would change everything. Mario's diner sat on a corner in El Cajon like it had been there since the beginning of time. Neon sign flickering. Windows fogged from the heat, inside meeting cold November air. The kind of place where truckers and cops and insomniacs gathered at all hours, asking no questions, keeping to themselves. Perfect for a meeting that could end in handcuffs or bullets. Kira entered first. McKenna stayed in the truck, engine running, watching the exits. They'd agreed on signals. If she didn't emerge in 15 minutes, he'd know things had gone wrong. Inside the diner smelled like coffee and bacon grease and decades of cigarette smoke that no amount of cleaning could ever quite eliminate. A dozen patrons scattered across booths and counter seats. Nobody looked up when she entered. The woman in the back booth was exactly what Kira had expected, and nothing like it. Late 30s, dark hair pulled back severe, pantsuit that said federal agent without needing a badge. But her eyes, sharp, calculating, haunted, said she'd seen things that kept her awake at night. Those eyes tracked Kira from the door to the booth. Professional assessment, threat evaluation. The kind of look that missed nothing. Kira slid into the seat across from her. Special Agent Torres. Kira Brennan. Not a question, statement of fact. You look like your father, same way of moving, like you're always ready for contact. Are you here to arrest me? If I wanted you arrested, there'd be 6 agents outside and you'd already be in cuffs. Torres pushed a manila folder across the table. Look. Inside were photographs. Marcus Aldridge, CIA case officer, 50s, silver hair, dead eyes. Financial records showing millions in unexplained deposits. Communications intercepts. And at the bottom, a surveillance photo of Thorne and Aldridge meeting at a restaurant. I've been investigating Aldridge since 2021, Torres said. Started as a financial crimes case, money laundering, shell companies. Then I found the connection to military operations, unauthorized hits, black bag work, SEALs being used for criminal activity disguised as national security. Why didn't you stop them? I tried. My case got shut down. Orders from above. Way above. People who decided Aldridge was too valuable to prosecute, that his operations were essential to national security. The bitterness in her voice was sharp enough to cut. So I kept investigating, quietly, building an airtight case, waiting for the right moment. And that moment is now. Your father tried to expose Desert Mirage in 2012. Failed. I tried in 2021. Failed. But tonight you broke into that storage unit and got video evidence. The smoking gun I've been looking for. Torres leaned forward. Together we have enough to bury all of them. Thorne, Craddock, Aldridge, everyone involved. Kira studied her, looking for tells, signs of deception, found nothing but exhausted determination. Why trust me? I'm wanted for murder. You didn't kill Kellerman. Thorne did. Probably walked into his house using SEAL access codes, shot him with a 9mm planted evidence to frame you. Classic frame job. Torres pulled out her phone, showed Kira a text message. I got this 20 minutes ago from a source in NCIS. They're about to issue your warrant, but they're also seeing inconsistencies. Timeline doesn't work. Witnesses don't match. Somebody's going to start asking questions. Before or after I'm arrested, depends on how fast we move. Torres slid a flash drive across the table. Everything I have, 3 years of investigation. You combine that with what you stole, tonight we go public simultaneously. WikiLeaks, Washington Post, New York Times, congressional offices, blasted everywhere at once, make it impossible to suppress. They'll kill us. Probably, but they'll fail. Because by the time they find us, the evidence is already out there. Dead man's switch. If we don't check in every 12 hours, everything auto-publishes. Torres smiled without humor. Mutually assured destruction. It's what stopped the Cold War. It'll stop this too. Kira made the decision, pulled out her own flash drive, the one containing the hard drive copies, the video, everything from the storage unit. Copy everything I have. Cross-reference with your files, but we do this my way. No federal custody, no safe houses. I'm not sitting in a room while you protect me. Torres took the drive. What's your way? We draw Thorne out, make him come to us, on ground we choose, with evidence we control, and we end this, permanently. You're talking about a confrontation, not an arrest. I'm talking about justice, however it comes. Torres was quiet for a long moment, then she nodded. Your father would have said the same thing. All right, but we do it smart. We plan every detail, because we only get one shot. They spent 2 hours in that booth planning an operation that would either expose the biggest military corruption scandal in decades or get them all killed. When they finished, Kira walked out into the cold night air. McKenna had the truck running. Well, we're going to war. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Torres provided access to resources Kira didn't know existed. Encrypted communications, secure servers, contacts who could move information without leaving fingerprints. They uploaded everything to a dozen different locations, cloud servers in Iceland, encrypted files sent to journalists with instructions to open if they didn't receive a daily check-in, physical copies mailed to congressional offices, the modern equivalent of insurance policies scattered so widely that killing them would accomplish nothing. Meanwhile, Thorne was hunting. NCIS issued the warrant Wednesday morning. Kira Brennan wanted for the murder of Chief Petty Officer Briggs Kellerman, armed and dangerous. Approach with caution. Her face was on every news channel. Former logistics coordinator turned killer. The story wrote itself. Unstable woman couldn't handle the pressure, snapped and murdered a decorated SEAL. The media ate it up. Torres fed them better bait. Through carefully placed leaks to friendly journalists, she started planning questions. Why did the timeline not match Kira's known movements? Why were there no witnesses? Why did the ballistics report seem rushed? Doubts, small at first, but growing. By Thursday, some news outlets were running stories questioning the official narrative. By Friday, 2 congressmen were demanding an independent investigation. Thorne would be feeling the pressure, would know his frame job was unraveling, would know he needed to act. That's when Torres made the call. She used a burner phone, called Thorne's personal cell, left a simple message. Commander Thorne, this is FBI Special Agent Nicole Torres. I have evidence of your involvement in Operation Desert Mirage. I have video of the executions. I have financial records. I have everything. You have 24 hours to turn yourself in, or I go public. Then she gave him the location where she'd be waiting. McKenna's cabin, Cleveland National Forest, 55 miles northeast of San Diego. The same cabin Kira had been to a dozen times as a kid. The same cabin Dad had helped McKenna build back in 1987. The same cabin that had been designed from the ground up as a defensive position. He'll come, Torres said. He has to. If I go public, he's finished. His only play is to eliminate me before that happens. He'll bring help, McKenna said. Contractors, private military, maybe Craddock. He won't come alone. Good. The more people he brings, the more witnesses to what really happened. Kira checked her weapons. The Sig P Dad's gun, the one she'd trained with since she was 16, fully loaded, 2 spare magazines. McKenna had more firepower. M4A1 carbine, Remington 700 rifle, his personal arsenal from 27 years in the teams. Torres had a Glock 19 and a backup piece, plus body armor, FBI issue, 3 people against however many Thorne brought. Bad odds. But Kira had been trained for bad odds. They arrived at the cabin Friday evening, sunset painting the mountains gold and red. The cabin sat in a small clearing surrounded by pines, elevated position with excellent sight lines. 200 meters to the nearest tree line in any direction. McKenna had built it during the Cold War, back when he'd been convinced nuclear apocalypse was imminent. The construction reflected that paranoia. Reinforced walls, steel shutters, underground bunker access through a hidden hatch in the floor, escape tunnel leading 150 feet into the forest. This place was designed to survive the end of the world, McKenna said. Should handle a few corrupted SEALs. They spent the evening preparing, setting up defensive positions, placing motion sensors around the perimeter, loading weapons, running through scenarios. Kira found herself in the attic checking sight lines through the sniper's position McKenna had built into the roof. The Remington 700 rested on sandbags, 360-degree view, perfect firing position. Her phone buzzed. Text from Torres, just uploaded the final evidence package. Dead man's switch is armed. If we don't check in by 0800 tomorrow, everything goes public automatically. Kira replied, understood. Another text, your father would be proud. She didn't know how to answer that, so she didn't. Instead, she looked at the photograph she carried in her jacket pocket. Dad in his dress whites, that rare smile, his hand on her shoulder. I'm finishing this, she whispered. For you, for those 3 people in Iraq, for everyone they hurt. The voice came from behind her. McKenna, talking to ghosts, talking to Dad. McKenna climbed into the attic, sat beside her. For a while, they just watched the sun disappear behind the mountains. You know this might not end well, he said finally. I know. Thorne's got resources, training, experience. He's not going to roll over. I'm counting on it. McKenna smiled, sad and proud at once. Deck always said you were tougher than any SEAL he'd ever met. I'm starting to believe him. He trained me for this. No, he trained you to survive. This, McKenna gestured at the weapons, the defensive positions. This is something you chose. Revenge, justice, whatever you want to call it. What would you call it? Necessary. He stood, headed for the ladder, paused. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be ugly. She didn't sleep, just lay in her sleeping bag in the cabin's main room listening to the night sounds. Wind in the pines, distant owl, the creaks of old woods settling. And at 0245 hours, the motion sensors started pinging. Kira was up instantly, SIG P2226 in hand. McKenna and Torres were already moving to positions. 6 contacts, Torres said, watching the tablet displaying sensor data. Coming from the east, moving tactical. This is them. McKenna was in the main room with the M4A1 covering the door and windows. Torres was in the bunker monitoring sensors and communications. Kira climbed to the attic sniper position. The Remington 700 felt familiar in her hands. Dad's rifle, the one he'd used in the teams, the one he'd taught her to shoot when she was 15. She settled behind it, adjusted the scope, scanned the tree line through night vision. There, 6 figures moving through the forest, professional spacing, good discipline. These weren't random contractors. These were operators. She keyed her radio. 6 contacts confirmed, 400 meters, moving toward the cabin in tactical formation. McKenna's voice, can you ID any of them? She adjusted magnification. The night vision scope turned darkness into green-tinted clarity. Lead figure, tall, moving with command presence. Garrett Thorne. Thorne's lead element, can't ID the others yet. They got closer, 300 meters. She could see them clearly now. Thorne, Craddock. 4 others she didn't recognize. Private military contractors, probably. The kind of men who did wet work for cash and didn't ask questions. All armed. M4-style rifles. Sidearms. Body armor. Coming to kill. At 200 meters, Thorne stopped. Raised a megaphone. His voice carried clearly across the clearing. Kira Brennan, Agent Torres. You're surrounded. Federal agents are en route. Come out with your hands up. Torres laughed over the radio. He thinks we're stupid enough to believe that. He's buying time, McKenna said, positioning his team, getting ready to assault. Kira kept her scope on Thorne. She could take the shot. 400 yards. Wind was negligible. Temperature was cold, but she'd calculated that. One round, center mass, he'd be dead before he hit the ground. But that wasn't the plan. They needed him alive, needed him to confess, needed everything captured on video. Torres had cameras running, body cam on her vest, cameras hidden around the cabin's exterior, everything being recorded and uploaded in real time to secure servers. This wasn't just about stopping Thorne, it was about exposing him, making sure the world saw what he was. Kira keyed her radio. "He's yours, Torres." Torres activated the external speakers. Her voice boomed across the clearing. "Commander Thorne, this is FBI Special Agent Nicole Torres. You are under investigation for war crimes, murder, and conspiracy. Surrender now or face federal charges." Silence, then Thorne laughed. The sound carried across the cold night air. "Agent Torres, you're harboring a fugitive wanted for murder. Surrender. Kira Brennan, and we can talk." Wow. Kira Brennan didn't kill anyone. You murdered Chief Kellerman. You murdered Master Chief Declan Brennan. You murdered 3 innocent civilians in Iraq in 2012, and I have video evidence of all of it. Another silence, longer this time. "You're bluffing. Hassan al-Dulaimi, Aisha al-Dulaimi, Layla al-Dulaimi, 3 unarmed civilians executed on March 15, 2012. I have the helmet camera footage. I have financial records showing CIA officer Marcus Aldridge paid you $600,000. I have everything." Torres was playing it perfectly, giving him rope, making him respond, getting him talking on camera. Thorne's voice changed, lost the false confidence. "Whatever you think you have, it won't matter. You'll never make it to court. None of you will. We don't need court. Everything's already uploaded. Dead man switch. If we don't check in by 0800 hours, it auto-publishes to 17 news organizations. You're finished, Thorne. You can kill us, but you can't stop the truth." Kira watched through her scope, saw Thorne turn to Craddock, saw them talking, saw the moment Thorne made his decision. "Light them up," Thorne shouted. Gunfire erupted. Automatic weapons, dozens of rounds, all concentrated on the cabin. Windows shattered. Wood splintered. The noise was overwhelming, but the cabin held. McKenna's paranoid construction proving its worth. Reinforced walls absorbed the impacts. Steel shutters protected the windows. Kira waited. Let them waste ammunition. Let them commit. When they paused to reload, she took her first shot. Contractor on the left flank. 410 yards, slight crosswind. She compensated, squeezed the trigger. The Remington barked. The contractor went down. Not a kill shot. Deliberate hit to the leg, wounding, not killing. "Contact left," one of them shouted. They scattered, taking cover, discipline fracturing under sniper fire. Kira worked the bolt, chambered another round, acquired the second target, another contractor. 420 yards, moving. She led him, fired, hit, shoulder. He spun and dropped. Sniper roof position. They concentrated fire on the attic. Rounds punched through the roof. Kira rolled away from the firing position, crawled to the secondary position 10 feet away. Below, McKenna was returning fire through a gun port. Controlled bursts, keeping them pinned. The assault continued for 12 minutes. Ammunition expended. No real damage to either side. Then Thorne called a ceasefire. "Kira," his voice, "let's talk face to face, just you and me." She didn't respond. "I know you're up there. I know you've got the sniper rifle. Hell of shooting? Your daddy taught you well. Still nothing. Here's the deal. You come out. We settle this one-on-one. Nobody else gets hurt. You don't, and I burn this place down with everyone inside." McKenna's voice over radio. "Don't do it. It's a trap." Torres. "We've got him on camera making threats. That's enough." But Kira was already moving, climbing down from the attic, SIG PU-26 in hand. "What are you doing?" McKenna grabbed her arm. "Ending this." She pulled free. "He wants me. I'll give him me, but on my terms." She walked to the door, opened it, stepped out into the clearing. The shooting stopped. 6 faces turned toward her. Thorne stood 30 meters away, Craddock beside him, 2 contractors still mobile. Thorne smiled. "There she is, the girl who thinks she's a SEAL." Kira walked forward, slow, deliberate, hands visible. SIG P-26 holstered. You murdered my father. Your father was a problem. Problems get solved. He tried to expose war crimes, so you had him killed. I had him silenced. There's a difference. Thorne's smile widened. And now I'm going to silence you, just like Daddy. He reached for his sidearm. Kira was faster. The SIG P-26 cleared leather in .87 seconds. Front sight on target. Trigger press smooth. But she didn't aim center mass. She aimed low. Hip shot, right side. The round hit exactly where she intended. Thorne screamed. Went down. His weapon clattered away. Craddock drew. Kira pivoted. Double tap. Both rounds center mass. He dropped. The contractors raised their weapons. McKenna's M4A1 barked from the cabin. Controlled bursts. One contractor went down. The other ran. Then silence. Just wind. And Thorne gasping on the ground. And the smell of gunpowder. Kira walked to him. Kicked his weapon away. Stood over him. You're not dying, she said. You're going to prison. You're going to face trial. You're going to spend the rest of your life knowing everyone sees what you really are. Thorne coughed blood. They'll bury this. They always do. Not this time. She pulled out her phone, showed him the screen. Live upload, everything being recorded, already sent to 17 different locations. By sunrise, the whole world knows. Video of the executions, financial records, your confession, all of it. I didn't confess to anything. You just admitted you silenced my father, on camera, with witnesses. She leaned close. Dad chose honor. You chose money. Guess which one wins in the end? Sirens in the distance, red and blue lights flashing through the trees. Torres walked out of the cabin, badge visible. Federal agents, put down your weapons. NCIS vehicles, FBI, even local sheriff. A convoy of law enforcement descending on the cabin. Torres had called them 20 minutes ago, right after the shooting started. Made sure they arrived in time to see everything, to collect evidence, to arrest survivors. Thorne was loaded into an ambulance. Craddock's body was covered. The contractors were cuffed. And Kira Brennan stood in the clearing, watching the sun rise over the mountains, her father's gun in her hand. McKenna walked up beside her. Hell of a night. It's not over. Trial, testimony, years of legal battles. But you won. They can't suppress this now, can't bury it. The truth's out there. She looked at him. What happens now? Now you become the most famous whistleblower in military history. Book deals, movie rights, congressional testimony. He smiled. Your dad's legacy gets restored. Those 3 people in Iraq get justice. And every corrupted operator in the teams looks over their shoulder wondering if they're next. Torres joined them. NCIS wants a statement. So does FBI. So does DOJ. You're going to be busy. What about Aldridge, the CIA officer? Arrested an hour ago, trying to flee the country. We had people watching him. He's done. Kira felt something release in her chest. Tension she'd been carrying for months, maybe years. It's really over. The fighting's over. The justice part, that's just starting. 3 months later, Kira stood in Arlington National Cemetery. Spring sunshine. Cherry blossoms. The ceremony was small, family only, except Dad's family had always been the teams. 200 SEALs in dress whites. Perfect formation, silent tribute. The Secretary of the Navy stood at the podium, reading the citation. The Navy Cross is presented posthumously to Master Chief Declan Brennan for extraordinary heroism and unwavering integrity. When ordered to participate in unlawful combat operations, Master Chief Brennan refused. When threatened with court-martial, he filed formal war crimes reports. When silenced through forced retirement, he continued to seek justice. His courage and dedication to honor, even at the cost of his life, exemplifies the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. They updated his headstone, added the Navy Cross, changed the inscription. Master Chief Declan Brennan, United States Navy SEAL, 1960, 2018. He chose honor over silence. Kira stood before it. Dress blues, Dad's Navy Cross pinned to her chest. They'd given her one too. Civilian honor for exposing corruption. McKenna stood beside her, Torres on the other side. He'd be proud, McKenna said. He'd say I was reckless. That too. The ceremony ended. People filed away. Kira stayed. Eventually only Torres remained. Kira knelt beside the headstone, traced the engraved letters with her fingers. The marble was cold, smooth, permanent. "I did it, Dad," she whispered. "Took me 6 months. Almost got killed twice. But I did it." The wind carried cherry blossom petals across the grass, pink against white stone, beautiful and sad at once. Thorne got life without parole. Aldridge is facing execution. Craddock's dead. They're excavating Hassan al-Dulami's grave in Iraq, giving him and his family a proper burial with honors. The Iraqi government is demanding reparations from CIA. She pulled out the letter he'd written, the one from the manila envelope. Read it for the 100th time. "I'm proud of you. Finish this." "It's finished, Dad. Your name is cleared. Your legacy is honor. And I'm going to make sure this never happens again." Torres approached quietly, gave her space but stayed close enough to matter. "He was a good man," Torres said. "The best. The world needs more like him, like you." Kira stood, brushed grass from her dress blues. "The world needs people who give a damn, who won't look away when something's wrong. That's why NCIS wants you." "I heard. Special Agent, Internal Affairs Division, investigating corruption and special operations. Your own office. Full authority." Kira touched the headstone. "What do you think, Dad?" The wind rustled through the cherry blossoms, carried the scent of spring. "I think he'd say finish what he started," Torres said. "There are more like Thorne, more corruption, more crimes disguised as national security. Someone needs to root them out. Someone like me. Someone exactly like you." Kira stood, squared her shoulders. "When do I start?" "Monday, 0800 hours, San Diego NCIS field office." They walked through Arlington together, past rows of white headstones, past the tomb of the unknown soldier, past memorials to warriors who'd given everything. At the gate, McKenna was waiting. Big grin. "Ready for your first assignment?" "Already." He handed her a file folder. "SEAL Team 7, financial irregularities. Weapons trafficking, smells familiar." She opened it, read the first page, felt that familiar surge of purpose. "When do we move?" "We." "You're coming with me, consultant. I need someone who knows the teams." McKenna laughed. "Your dad would have loved this, his daughter hunting corrupted SEALs." "He trained me for it." "No, he trained you to survive. This," McKenna gestured at the file, "this is something you chose?" "Yeah, I did." They drove back to San Diego, made plans, started the investigation, and 2 weeks later, Kira Brennan stood at a private shooting range at dawn. Same range where she'd trained for years. Same target distance. Same weapon. Dad's SIG P226. She loaded the magazine. 15 rounds. Adopted her stance. Front sight focus. Trigger control. Breathing. The first shot broke clean. 14 more followed. Perfect rhythm. Perfect control. When she retrieved the target, all 15 rounds were center mass, 2-inch group. The range master watched. Same old man who'd known Dad, who'd watched her grow up. "Best shooting I've seen in 35 years. She holstered the weapon. "My father taught me." "He taught you more than shooting. He taught you honor." Kira smiled, turned to leave. McKenna was waiting by the truck. "Ready for work." "Always." They drove toward the NCIS field office. Another case, another investigation, another chance to root out corruption. And Kira Brennan, 28 years old, special agent, daughter of a hero, was exactly where she belonged. Fighting for truth, fighting for justice, fighting to finish what her father started. She touched the SIG P26 at her waist, felt its familiar weight, whispered, "Mission accomplished, Dad," and drove into the morning sun ready for whatever came next. Because she was Declan Brennan's daughter, and she was just getting started.